So, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered for the PlayStation 5 was actually just released yesterday at midnight in the Eastern Daylight Time here in the US. And while this game has only got a $10 fee upgrade, I honestly would have to say I personally do think that it's honestly worth it. Now, yes, there is an argument that could be made that I know a lot of people are, going to just start hammering in the comments and just all together that Sony shouldn't have released a new version of The Last of Us Part 2 for the PlayStation 5, considering that it already took full advantage of the less powerful PlayStation 4. And the graphical perspective, it honestly looked very, very good, like a PlayStation 5 native game. And there was an update that Sony released, well, not Sony, but Naughty Dog, however, the developer, that did release an update for 60 FPS support on the PlayStation 5. So your PlayStation 4 disc, if you pop it in your PlayStation 5, you are guaranteed with an upscale 4K of a native 1440p resolution at 60 frames a second. Now, there are some benefits with this new updated PlayStation 5 native version, and you actually have three, well, technically two, but when you include VRR modes in this game, you're pretty much left with three other extra graphical modes. Now, you still can play the game at 60 frames a second at 1440p, but you can also play it at a higher, cleaner, graphical fidelity at 4K 30 frames a second. But with VRR, you now have the option to play the game at a somewhat 60 frames while maintaining mostly a 40 frames a second at native 4K. And then on performance mode, you got the option to pretty much play at somewhat 120 FPS, anywhere from 70 something to upwards to 120 FPS, which is going to basically make the game play a heck of a lot smoother than just a regular 60 FPS option. So, if you have this game for your PlayStation 4, whether it be digital or a hard physical copy, you have the option to upgrade just for $10. Now, I personally think that the $10 is absolutely worth the upgrade for The Last of Us Part 2 on the PlayStation 5. Honestly, with the extra graphical niceties that you do get, even while maintaining the 60 FPS option at upscale 4K 1440p, you now have, like I mentioned, the option to play at 4K 30, or if you have a variable refresh rate, I was about to say VVRR there for a second, but if you have a compatible TV with VRR, you now have the option to play at 40 to somewhat 60 FPS at 4K, and then somewhere up from 75 to 120 FPS at performance mode. And these are really nice options to get. But when it comes to the graphical fidelity, honestly, the only option that you're honestly going to see the difference of this between the, PlayStation 4 version is basically playing at fidelity mode. But like I mentioned, if you have a TV that is VRR compatible, you'll now get up to 40 to 60 FPS while playing at native 4K. Now, a lot of people really don't see any difference whatsoever in terms of the visuals, which clearly they're pretty much identical. Like, you are literally not going to tell that much of a difference while from the PlayStation 4 and this new remastered PlayStation 5 version. Now, there has been a discussion that they should have called this the Director's Cut, The Last of Us Part 2 Director's Cut, like they did with Death Stranding and as well as Ghost of Tsushima. I honestly do have to give it to that instead of remastered. But if you play the game on its 4K 30 or 40 FPS mode, honestly, I can see the game looking a bit more crisper and cleaner than the 1440p 60 frames a second mode that you already get with the PlayStation 4 version running on the PlayStation 5. But you do have a new mode called No Return, and it's basically not story based, but it's basically more of like survival combat and such. So, and there's also some cut content that was actually cut in the PlayStation 4 version that you now are getting with the PlayStation 5 version now. So, honestly, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered for the PlayStation 5, honestly, how would I honestly rate this game? Well, honestly, I would probably give it a 7 out of 10. Like, yes, it's not perfect, but with only a $10 upgrade that you have with owning the game on PlayStation 4 and being able to upgrade to the PlayStation 5 version for only $10, rather if you have a digital copy or even a physical copy, you can literally put in the PlayStation 4 hard copy disc and you will be granted with an option to upgrade to the remastered PlayStation 5 version for only $10. So, honestly, this is not quite as bad as people are making it out to be. Now, if you had to pay the full $50 after you own the game already for the PS4, if you had to pay $50 that it actually is, then yes, this is not going to be extremely like all that well from the consumers, like straight up. It's just not going to be all that great for the consumers. But since you can just pop in your PS4 disc or go to your digital library of the PlayStation Store and have the option to upgrade for just $10, honestly, I do have to give the PlayStation 5 version of The Last of Us Part 2 a 7 out of 10. Like, yes, it's not a huge graphical leap in terms of visual fidelity. I mumbled there for a second. I about said physical there for a second. But, you know, there's not a big difference in visual fidelity. But having these extra graphical modes, including VRR support, honestly, for $10, it's honestly worth it, in my personal opinion. I absolutely think that The Last of Us Part 2, with its, additional content that was cut content from the original release version of the game, and having an extra mode called No Return, and having 3 to upwards 4 different graphical modes with VRR support being included in them, honestly, for $10, this game is definitely worth the $10 upgrade. Now, you have the option to just continue to only play the PlayStation 5 version, or, sorry, the PlayStation 4 version, if I were to say anything, but at least you don't have to pay the full $50 to pretty much get the remaster version of the PS5. You pretty much don't have to pay $50 for the game, which is a very, very nice, smart move from Sony. So, if you have this game and you got the money and you was deciding on whether to upgrade to the PlayStation 5 version for $10, if you haven't already, honestly, I would say the $10 is absolutely worth the extra content and especially the extra graphical modes. So, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered for the PlayStation 5, I have to give it a 7 out of 10. Like, it's not perfect and there's not a huge, visual difference like I mentioned, but for $10 and all the extra niceties that you get for the $10 is honestly worth it. So, I'm going to give The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered a 7 out of 10. So, I hope you guys enjoy this video. If you guys could smack that like button, subscribe if you are new to this channel, and we will be sure to keep you posted with more future content like this going forward. But without any further ado, this is Tech and Gaming Reviews. Hope you all enjoyed this video. Rate, comment, subscribe, and we will see you on the next one.